Hi, this is Don McAllister from yourbitcoinjourney.com. In this video, I'll be walking you through setting up an account with Strike, a global Bitcoin-only exchange service now available in over 95 countries. Once you have an account with Strike, you can exchange your native currency such as dollars or pounds for Bitcoin, as well as exchanging Bitcoin back to your native currency. There is a website over at strike.me, but I'll be using the Strike iOS app to walk you through the setup process. The Strike app is also available on Android devices. Now this video is specifically tailored to the UK, so you may find the process is significantly simplified in other countries. So this is the Strike app across over on the iOS App Store. I'm just going to go ahead and open the app. I've already installed it. And we're now into the application itself. As you can see at the top, there is a message with a link to learn about high-risk investments. Personally, I don't regard Bitcoin as an investment. I regard it as a savings technology. But you will need to jump through a few hoops to actually exchange your pounds for Bitcoin using the Strike app. It's not specific to Strike. It's any application or any exchange that operates in the UK have to abide by strict FCA guidelines. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and sign up. So down at the bottom, if I just click on the sign up button, I'm going to create a personal account, although you can create a business account. And then I'm going to put in my email address. And then we'll click next. An email will be sent with a confirmation code, but iOS has identified that code from my mail, so I can just click on here. Then we'll just tap on next. At this point, we need to create a username, and it's taken the first part of my email address, which is fine. So I'll keep that, and then I'll just tap on next again. We will enable notifications. So we'll allow. I'm based in the United Kingdom, so I agree the terms of service and privacy notice, and Strike will send promotional emails unless you object. I'm just going to say agree to all that. Now, as with any exchange in the UK, you do have to verify your identity. You need to give your full legal name and date of birth, your residential address, and also a valid government-issued photo ID. Now, this is all to do with what's called KYC, Know Your Customer, and also anti-money laundering legislation as well. But again, it's not specific to Strike. It's with any exchange that you set up an account with within the UK. Now, obviously, I won't record this part of the sign-up process, but just to reiterate, you do need to give your full legal name when you do complete your identity details. But let me do that, and then we'll come back once my identity has been verified. So that's the first part of the process done. Basically, it was to upload a passport or other official ID, also take a selfie, which is one of the reasons for setting you up on the phone, and then finally a utility bill or something similar. So with all that documentation uploaded, we are now onto this stage. And again, this is to comply with UK financial regulations, so they need some more information. So let's go ahead and say next. So now we have a little quiz to go through. So which option best fits your situation? Well, I'm going to say I'm a restricted investor, so I'm going to allocate less than 10% of net assets. Okay, you need to read through this, I understand. So the first question, have you invested less than 10% of your net assets in high-risk investments? Yes, less than 10%. If yes, over the last 12 months, roughly what percentage of your net assets? Let's say 0%. And in the next 12 months, do you intend to limit your investments in high-risk investments to less than 10%? Yes, I intend to invest less than 10%. And in the next 12 months, roughly what percentage of your net assets do you intend to invest in high-risk investments as defined on the previous screen? Let's say 5%. Next, you need to read the statement and agree. So we now have to complete a brief knowledge test. We have 2 attempts before having to wait 24 hours to retry. So let's go. Which of the following best describes Strike's business? Strike allows users to buy and sell Bitcoin along with offering other Bitcoin functionality. Strike is a staking service. Or Strike allows users to interact with the various Web3 protocols. Well, Strike is very much just a Bitcoin only company? So my answer would be the first answer. Crypto assets are considered a high risk investment. Which of the following statements are true? Diversification is important, and retail investors are advised not to invest more than 10% of their net assets in restricted mass market investments, including crypto assets. Crypto assets are potentially complex and volatile, differing significantly from mainstream investments. As a result, they can be considered high-risk investments. Well, both of those are correct. Fill in the blanks. Strike is a custodial Bitcoin service provider. This means that when Bitcoin is held in my Strike account, it is held by someone for someone. As with any custodial model, I also take the risk that the Bitcoin may be unavailable to me if Strike becomes insolvent. So it's basically, it is held by Strike for me. So that's the third option. Which of the following statements is true? If Strike is subject to operational risks such as an outage or cyber attack, I may experience service delays, including an inability to buy or sell assets. I'm also vulnerable to potential financial crime. Or operational and financial crime risks do not apply to me because Bitcoin is a crypto asset stored on a blockchain and Strike will protect me from financial crime. And third option, even in the event of an operational outage affecting Strike, I would be able to sell my Bitcoin because Bitcoin trades 24/7, 365. Well, the answer to that one is the first option. So we'll select that, say next. Which of the following statements is true? Crypto assets are low-risk investments with strong investor protections. Crypto asset prices can vary dramatically from day to day and may not be suitable for all investors. And while crypto asset prices can rise quickly, they are almost guaranteed never to go down. Well, the obvious answer to that is number 2. It can vary dramatically from day to day and may not be suitable for all investors. We'll say next. Which of the following statements is true? The Financial Ombudsman Service and Financial Services Compensation Scheme protections generally do not apply to crypto asset investments, and investors should not expect to be protected by them if something goes wrong. Or, generally speaking, the FCA does not regulate crypto activities and Strike is not authorized by the FCA. Or both of the above. I'm going to go ahead with both of the above. Which of the following statements is true? Bitcoin on-chain transactions are final and not reversible. If I send Bitcoin to an incorrect address or send Bitcoin to a third party, I will not be refunded in case of any subsequent losses. Or, because Bitcoin transactions utilize blockchain technology, this minimizes my risk of loss, for instance, through operational risks, loss of private keys, or financial crime. That is not true. And third, blockchain technology is highly regulated. Again, that is not true. So the answer to that one is the first one. And hooray, we passed the test. Now, UK regulations require a 24-hour cool-off period before you're able to use the app. And you can access your account in, 24 hours. So I'll come back in 24 hours and we'll just do a simple transaction to exchange our first pounds into Bitcoin. So 24 hours later, and we're ready to use the app. So let me just go ahead and click continue. And we have a message to send with Bitcoin or cash. I'm just going to close that window down for now by tapping the X in the top corner. And that takes us through to the main screen. Now the first thing I'm going to do is change my units. You'll see here that I have 0 Bitcoin. I'm going to go across to here and then down to settings and select Bitcoin. And Bitcoin unit, I'm going to change to Satoshi or Sats. Let's go back. We'll close that down. Now, the first thing I need to do is to send some cash across into my account. So I need to fund my account. Let's go ahead and say fund my account. And I'm going to immediately buy Bitcoin with any bank deposit. So as my pound sterling comes into my Strike account, it will automatically buy the Bitcoin for me at the time. Now, you might want to do that. You might want to move the money over initially and then wait for a certain price level. Or if you want to spread out your Bitcoin buys, you could set up a recurring purchase. So perhaps send some money across, say £100, and then buy £10 worth of Bitcoin each day, each week, each hour. But these are options that I'll cover in a future video. Now, as part of the setup process, you do get what's called an e-money account with Strike. This is your own personal sort of bank account that you can instruct your normal bank to send money to. And you can see below here, I've got my account type, which is personal, the recipient name, sort code and account number, which I've blanked out, obviously, and the bank name. So this is the information that I need across over on my standard bank account to transfer funds across to Strike. So what I'm going to do now is set up a bank transfer, and let's say send over £10 into Strike, and we'll see what happens. Now off screen, I've just set up a bank transfer on my other iPhone from my current account to my Strike e-money account. And it's ready to go. I'm just going to hit send. And that transaction has now taken place. So we'll just give it a minute or two for it to appear over in my Strike account. There we go. As you can see here, because this is our first deposit, the deposit has been held. I need to answer a few security questions before it can be processed. So let's go ahead and we'll do that. And I'll tap on Let's Go. Is someone guiding you to buy Bitcoin or use Strike? No. So how did you learn about Strike? It needs to be a minimum of 15 characters. So I learned via my friends on x.com. We will say next. Main source of your account's funds, salary and savings. We'll say next. Do you plan to send funds outside of the Strike app? I'm going to say no. What do you plan to do with your funds on Strike? Well, initially I'm going to keep these as savings for the future. Eventually I will transfer them off to what's called a cold storage device, but again, we'll cover that in a future video. Describe any advice or input you have received regarding Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a savings technology, and we'll say done. Okay, so we need to wait for that to go through. Now, as I say, this is because this is our first transaction, so they're just double checking. Future transactions, as long as they're not of a high value amount, tend to go through pretty much automatically. So we shall wait for that to arrive. It probably needs a manual review. And just a word of warning that if you do your first transaction, say on a Friday evening or a Friday afternoon, it potentially could take the whole weekend for it to be authorized. They don't do these checks over the weekends. So weekdays is fine, weekends are no-no. Now it's actually 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, so hopefully it shouldn't take too long. So it's actually now the next day, and I've received 15,188 sats. So the transaction has gone through, my deposit has been received, and that's automatically been converted into Bitcoin. Now the delay was because, and this is why it's so important that you do put your full legal name when you're setting up your Strike account, is that the funds came from a joint account. So I did have to send some proof that the joint account was actually me, or I was a member of that joint account. And once that was sent over, the Bitcoin was purchased pretty much after an hour or two. Now you can check if they are waiting on something by going to your support options. So if I go up here to this icon in the top right hand corner and then scroll down to support, you will find any support chats here. So just respond to those and you should be good to go. So let me just go back and come out. In fact, I'll also show you this. This is my activity. So this is all activity. If I want to see the cash activity, so when things were deposited, I can see here. If I want to see my Bitcoin activity, I can go here. So this is my Bitcoin purchase of 15,188 sats for £10. I can see the original Bitcoin price, the amount of Bitcoin it purchased for me, and the fee. So you do incur a fee when you do purchase Bitcoin. With Strike, it's on a sort of a tiered basis. So the more that you actually buy, the lower the fee. This is quite a small amount. So it was 13 pence fee for Strike. Now you can add a note for yourself for your records. It shows me the date and time and also the reference. But if I just come back out to the home screen, you'll notice that it's currently worth £9.60. So obviously over the day there's been some slight fluctuation in the Bitcoin price. So the current value of my Bitcoin is shown just above the sats figure. And of course, Bitcoin is volatile. It will go up and down on a day-to-day basis, even sometimes on an hour-to-hour basis. But you really need to look at the long-term aspect of holding onto Bitcoin. Now that we've had our first transaction sent through to Strike, it should be pretty straightforward to send another transaction, and hopefully that will go through pretty much in real time. So over here I've got my other iPhone with my standard joint first account. I've set up a payment to my Strike account for another £10. So let's say done, and we'll say next. Now we need to give a reason for the transaction, and I'm actually paying myself. The nice thing is with the Strike eMoney account, it is your account, so you are technically paying yourself. So we'll continue. There we go, we'll confirm. And it was successful. So if we look across on the other iPhone and give it a few seconds, there we go. Up at the top, deposit successful. You've bought 15,600 sats. And my total has now gone up. Again, I can go across to my activity. I can have a look at my Bitcoin purchases, and there is the new one that's just come through. So the Bitcoin price is slightly different to as it was yesterday. The Strike fee is the same. I can add a note. This is the date and time and the reference. Now, of course, I would always say that you should hold on to your Bitcoin. But if you want to convert your Bitcoin back to cash or back to Great British Pounds, I'll show you how simple it is, just to give you a level of confidence that you can still sell your Bitcoin back to cash and then transfer that cash back to your standard current account. So if we come back out of here, back to the main screen, and then down at the bottom, click on the sell button. So let's sell £10 worth. We'll say next. There's the Bitcoin price. Again, there is a fee for Strike to sell your Bitcoin, but we'll say confirm. So you'll now see at the top the sale has been successful. I've sold £9.87, which is the £10 minus the fee, and I've sold 15,847 sats. Now when I press OK, we'll see the sats total on our main page reduce. So now I have both Bitcoin in my Strike account and also cash as well. Now to view the cash, if I go to my cash account, I'll see I've got £9.87 in cash available to withdraw. And then all I need to do is just say withdraw, say how much I want to withdraw, and it will send it to the bank account that you've set up. You can set up additional bank accounts if you want, but I'm just going to go back to the account that I transferred the funds across from, and let's say we'll say £9. We'll say next, we will say confirm, and we'll say OK. So my cash balance is reduced to 87p, and that money will now appear within a short time across over in my standard current account. So I hope you found that useful. We've been through setting up a Strike account, funding your Strike account, purchasing Bitcoin, selling Bitcoin, and then withdrawing the cash back to your standard current account. Now, I will be making some additional videos about using the Strike application and other Bitcoin related video tutorials, so please check back later.